That's it right there, T-Nip.
What's up, YouTubers? It's CrownSpectro here with another video for you guys, and today we're gonna be talking about Final Fantasy XIII, a possible remake. I don't see why this game should not be remade. Now, I want to start off by clarifying, saying that I never had a chance to really play Final Fantasy XIII. I heard it was a great game. I played Final Fantasy X, and it was another Final Fantasy I played as well. I can't remember. I think it was the Cydia series I played. I played that. And those are some really fun Final Fantasy games. I honestly will admit that. Honestly, didn't really think I would be all into Final Fantasy games. Honestly, the whole deep plot and everything was actually really good story. But overall, the Final Fantasy series is one of those series that's been around for quite some time. And, honestly, I'm actually remembering when Final Fantasy 13 came out. And this game, honestly, for what its time, by far to me, had the most beautiful looking graphics and most greatest gameplay. I just never really played it though, because Final Fantasy, I don't know, it's always felt like Final Fantasy was too deep. I guess for me personally, I just felt like the stories were too deep, or I just felt like the stories were too long. Who knows? But now I feel like maybe this game is time for this game to get a remake, because I'm really wanting to play this game. But Final Fantasy 13 is what's the word to say? Just it's got something different. It's got a different air around it. I won't say it separates itself greater than any other Final Fantasy game, because I don't want to make that comparison when I don't haven't played not many of the other Final Fantasy games. But for one, I played a Lightning on the city of Final Fantasy, and she was a really fun character to play with. I actually like her character a lot. And her character has a lot of pretty unique skills and pretty dope design overall. And I also like some of the other Final Fantasy. I like Final Fantasy 15. That character's design is also pretty dope. But the real question we're here to talk about here is, where's the Final Fantasy 13 remastered? All right, Final Fantasy 7, as we already know, is getting remastered, and of course it was delayed, but it's still coming out in April. Now, what about Final Fantasy 13 though? Final Fantasy 13 originally released back in 2009. And Final Fantasy 2, well, Final Fantasy 13 2 came out in 2011, and then Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns came out in 2013. You know, I've seen that a lot of Fantasy games are getting, remade, or I won't say a lot of them getting remade, but Final Fantasy 7 getting remade. Actually, and another Final Fantasy 10 got also remade. So yeah, I wouldn't even just say that. I see a high possibility for Final Fantasy 13 being remade, because it's one of the most popular Final Fantasy series. And, Final Fantasy is, like I said before, it's already a big franchise, big series, well known. People really, it has a huge, huge fan base. I honestly wasn't too really aware of that. But, I learned that Final Fantasy has a really, really big fan base. And Final Fantasy 13, of course, a lot of people love the Lightning Returns. And everybody says it's a great story, great plot, and everything. And honestly, I did not know that Final Fantasy 13 is actually on the Xbox. I forgot about that due to I forgot that the Xbox actually does do backwards compatibility. So Final Fantasy 13 is on the Xbox One, and I think Xbox One X as well, due to the backwards compatibility. So that's the one thing I swear that PS5 really needs. And I'm hearing that they adding that to the PS5, the backwards compatibility, because PS4 really missed out on that. They the backwards compatibility, they need that, man. They really do. But the Final Fantasy for the PS5 13, maybe, I won't say PS5, maybe possibly PS4. There's still a possibility for it to make it to the PS5, but I'd much rather go ahead and just remaster it for the PS4. The backwards compatibility was nice and everything on the Xbox One. When I saw of it, checked out a little bit of gameplay of it from the Xbox One, and let's see, they made a couple improvements to the cutscene, so that was nice and everything. But if they could make a remake for the Final Fantasy 7, I don't see the problem with them making a remake for Final Fantasy 13. But I understand why Final Fantasy 7 got a remake, because I heard that that game was highly, highly, highly requested for that game to be remade and bought and remastered, bought to the PS4. And of course, sometimes remasters take a long time, depending on the sort of game that you're trying to remaster here. As we all know, Final Fantasy games have quite the quite a long story. A lot goes on in the story. A lot of cut scenes that you have to redo and re-update and make them look more nice and more updated for the PS4. So there's a lot of factors to contribute in remastering games. But overall, I feel like that Final Fantasy 13 could make it real far as remasters go. Because simply due to the fact that Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13 2, Final original Final Fantasy 13, these games, they're all really popular. And for the time that Final Fantasy 13 came out on the PS3, Final Fantasy 13 was immensely a hit the minute it released. Honestly, I remember when it released. Times were different back then. You know, games were a lot more, what's the word to say it? A lot more time was put into games during this time. And that's not to say the Final Fantasy series falling off. I'm not talking about Final Fantasy when I talk about games in general. I'm talking about I'm talking about just games in general. Like, not the Final Fantasy franchise. So overall, from when I see the Final Fantasy franchise and the series itself, it's done well. In fact, I will say it even improved over the years. Final Fantasy 15 done really well for itself. So I say, the series is doing really great. So it's Kingdom Hearts and other Square Enix games are doing really good. But I'm talking about some of these other developers that make these games and, just rush them and put them out, Back then, it wasn't much of a problem. It's not to say it wasn't happening back then. Don't get me wrong. There were games getting put out back then that were released and rushed too quickly. But they just wasn't as common back then as it is now. It's more and more common. It's way, 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 way too common, alright? I feel like that, games these days get put out, and like I said, I think I talked about this in another video, maybe my previous video or a video before that. Overall, games have indeed taken a downfall over the last 10 years. I say, maybe I won't say 10, maybe it's the last 7 8 years. It took quite the downfall in quality overall. But Final Fantasy 13 overall, though, like I was saying before about this remaster, it needs to happen. This remake, it should happen. This most definitely should make it to the PS4. If not the PS4, then at least make it to the PS5. I mean, PS5 is gonna have the backwards compatibility, so I don't see no reason why it shouldn't be able to make it. Who knows? You guys see what you think down in the comment section below about the Final Fantasy 13 remaster. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.